Before we get into today's edition of Just the Truth, let me tell you about the latest special from Michael and Dale at MyPillow. The standard MyPillow, normally $49.98 for a limited time only, just $14.88 with promo code Joey. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener specials, and see all the specials. There's a limited quantity of just 10 at this special price. That's $14.88 with promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. President Donald Trump accepted an unprecedented second invitation for a state dinner at Buckingham Palace hosted by King Charles. The president received an invitation during a meeting with the British Prime Minister yesterday in the Oval Office. Is the Epstein bombshell about to blow the lid in Washington? It appears some copies of the initial files are being released. We have the latest on this sordid story. A group of House Republicans are asking President Donald Trump to step in to assist a relative of Vice President JD Vance, who's being denied a life-saving transplant because she didn't receive the COVID jab. This is the case of medical bureaucrats going nuts. And we'll visit with Matt Wills, Vice President of Government Affairs for the Greenville Chamber, to get an update on what happened in the state capitol this week.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania appear to be headed back to Buckingham Palace. The president accepted an invitation yesterday from King Charles for a second state visit to the UK. The invite came in a letter presented to President Trump by British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who was meeting with Trump at the White House regarding ending the war in Ukraine. Let's take you to the Oval Office.
Gotten to know him very well, actually. First term and now second term. Perhaps you'd like to say what that very important paragraph.
Yes, so this is a letter from His Majesty the King. It's an invitation for a second state visit. This is really special. This has never happened before. This is unprecedented. And I think that just symbolises the strength of the relationship between us. So this is a very special letter. I think the last state visit was a tremendous success. His Majesty the King wants to make this even better than that. So this is truly historic and unprecedented second state visit. He wants to talk that through with you.
And that says it Windsor. That's really
Yes.
something.
Yes. What I haven't got yet is your answer. I do need to.
The answer is yes. We have our wonderful First Lady Melania and myself. The answer is yes, and we look forward to being there and honoring the King. And
of course, the voices were of President Donald Trump and the British Prime Minister in the Oval Office yesterday. When you heard the laughter, it was when the British Prime Minister said, "Well, I haven't gotten your answer yet." And that's when the president quickly said, "Well, yes, the First Lady and I will accept. We'll be happy to be there." Starmer said he would happily take President Trump's acceptance back to the King. Other Oval Office news, President Trump yesterday announced that he's reversing a Biden-era agreement that allowed Chevron to operate within Venezuela, citing unfulfilled commitments by the president, Nicolas Maduro. Trump made the announcement in a detailed post on Truth Social, where he accused the Maduro regime of failing to meet its obligations under the 2022 oil transaction agreement and electoral conditions. Trump wrote, "We are hereby reversing the concessions that crooked Joe Biden gave to Nicolas Maduro of Venezuela on the oil transaction agreement dated November 26, 2022, and also having to do with the electoral conditions within Venezuela, which have not been met by the Maduro regime." Additionally, Trump criticized the president for not expediting the return of violent criminals that were sent into the U.S., arguing that the regime had not acted swiftly enough to repatriate them. As a result, Trump stated that he's ordering the termination of the Biden administration's concession agreement with Venezuela as of March the 1st, the date when the deal was up for renewal to begin with. Venezuela Vice President Delcy Rodriguez responded with strong opposition, as you can imagine, calling this decision inexplicable and damaging. In a statement posted on Telegram, Rodriguez condemned the move as an attack on Chevron, a U.S.-based oil company that's been operating in Venezuela under the agreement. Secretary of State Marco Rubio also weighed in on the decision, stating on X that he intends to provide foreign policy guidance to dismantle all Biden-era oil and gas licenses that have, in his words, shamefully bankrolled the illegitimate Maduro regime. The decision could have major implications for the global oil market. I'm not quite sure how this may affect our price at the pump. Chevron currently exports around 240,000 barrels of crude oil, according to the White House. This is each day from its Venezuela operations, accounting for over a quarter of the country's entire oil put. Now, President Trump has repeatedly asserted that we do not need their oil, that we do not need Venezuelan oil, and has left open the possibility of further revoking Chevron's ability to operate in that entire region. During his first term, Trump pursued a maximum pressure sanction policy against Maduro. They didn't get along. They never have. And you would think that President Maduro would want to get along this time, knowing that President Trump does what he says he's going to do. Trump aims to reinforce his administration's tough on Maduro policies. Maduro just doesn't quite get this. I'd suggest that President Maduro may want to, first of all, expedite those flights to pick up those illegals, or they're going to cost him big time. One other thing, news out of the Oval Office yesterday. It was a busy day in the Oval Office. Kansas City Chiefs kicker Harrison Butker visited President Trump yesterday, a couple of weeks after his team's horrible loss in the Super Bowl to Philadelphia. The Eagles defeated the Chiefs 40-22. It wasn't even a real game. They just blew them out. Despite the loss, Mr. Butker appeared to be in high spirits during his visit with Trump in the Oval Office. According to reports there, he took a photo with White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt and others in the Oval Office. A White House official confirmed to Fox News that the president was delighted to welcome Butker. The president, again, had chosen Kansas City and seemed to be favoring them. Of course, he has issued the invitation to the Philadelphia Eagles, and it appears the Eagles have accepted and will be having their own visit. Butker is just an exceptional young man. He's been a very vocal supporter of Donald Trump. He previously endorsed him during the 2024 election campaign when a lot of football stars stayed out of it, and probably rightly so. In an October interview on the Ingram angle, he called President Trump the most pro-life president in our history, emphasizing the importance of protecting the unborn. Butker, in addition to his endorsement, has expressed his Christian values in various public speeches, including a commencement address at Benedictine College, where he criticized former President Joe Biden's stance on religious matters. He also has supported Trump's pick for the ambassador to the Vatican. During the Chiefs' 2023 Super Bowl title visit to the White House, to the Biden White House, Butker wore a tie with the Latin phrase that meant "protect the most vulnerable," along with a gold pin symbolizing the feet of a 10-week-old baby, reinforcing his pro-life stance. Now, the truth is, Joe Biden probably didn't even recognize what the Latin phrase meant. I'm sure someone on his staff eventually told him, but it probably just passed right over Joe Biden's head. But again, this young man, Harrison Butker, is really a great role model and a good ambassador for the NFL, because if a lot of young men out there who aspire to play football would just follow in this young man's path, they could do a lot worse, because he's the type of person that we want to see out there promoting his religion, promoting his Christian values, and just being a role model to young men that, hey, you can be a football star, you can excel in a tough sport like football, but you can also have a close relationship with God, and you don't have to be ashamed of it. You can tell others about your faith. You can be a spokesperson for your faith, and you don't have to be ashamed of it. This is a great message for all young men, and Harris Butker is a great ambassador for the pro-life movement, for sure. We need more young men like Harrison Butker. And kudos to President Trump for welcoming him to the Oval Office.
Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. There's a lot of talk about making America great again, and it begins with making America healthy again. Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team at PhD Weight Loss are at the forefront to educate and guide you to be your best self. The millions being spent in propping up Big Pharma are astounding, only to create long-term dependency and harmful side effects. Let's take a natural approach that isn't connected to a pharmaceutical company's bottom line. The coaches at PhD Weight Loss will show you how. The entire program is centered around science and nutrition, a proven roadmap that has helped over 8,000 clients lose over 331,000 pounds. You'll learn what to eat and when, how to quiet cravings, and finally get rid of that belly fat. Plus, you'll never take a medication. How many pounds would you like to lose in 2025? Do it the natural way with PhD Weight Loss, here to lead the charge to make America healthy again. Call PhD Weight Loss and schedule your consultation. 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900, or go to myphdweightloss.com.
Continuing today's show, and I again apologize. This whole week, my voice has been sort of raspy because of this sinus infection or allergies or whatever. But anyway, I apologize again for my voice. Renowned actor Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy were found deceased in their Santa Fe, New Mexico home on February the 26th. This was released yesterday. Hackman was 95 years old. Hard to believe he was that old. Seems like just not too long ago he was a blockbuster movie sensation. His wife, Arakawa, she was 63. They both were discovered, and this is what just breaks my heart. I mean, it's bad enough to think about these two human beings losing their life, but alongside them was their deceased dog. Authorities have deemed the circumstances, quote, suspicious, saying that signs of decomposition and the presence of an open prescription bottle with scattered pills near the wife's body. No immediate signs of foul play or gas leaks were detected, but investigators are saying that they will continue the investigation to determine the exact cause of death. Hackman's career spanned over 4 decades, earning him 2 Academy Awards for his roles in The French Connection and Unforgiven. He was celebrating for his versatility as an actor, portraying a wide range of characters in films such as Bonnie and Clyde, The Royal Tenenbaums, Superman. He retired from acting in 2004 and led a private life in Santa Fe with his wife, who is a classical pianist. So a sad day for Hollywood. Speaking of Hollywood, is something huge about to break? Not only it's going to shatter Hollywood, potentially Washington, D.C., and even the corporate world as well. There's sure a lot of uncomfortable swamp creatures right now. Why? The long-awaited, long-buried, long-hidden Jeffrey Epstein Files appear to be about to come out, about to see the light of day. And let me tell you, folks, this is going to expose, potentially, some of the biggest names in politics, some of the biggest names in the corporate world, and certainly in the entertainment world. People who never, ever wanted you to see what's inside these documents. So here's what you need to know. Conservative influencer Rogan O'Hanley, also known online as DC Drano, was literally spotted leaving the White House yesterday holding a binder that photographers got a shot of labeled Epstein Files Phase 1. It's not a leak. It's not a rumor. Hard evidence that these files are coming out. Evidently, he has a copy already. And not only that, but Attorney General Pam Bondi has confirmed that the first wave of Epstein documents could be released any day. So what does this mean? Well, let's start with the basics. These documents are expected to contain flight logs, potentially, names, connections, and this is all critical insight into the human trafficking network that Epstein was the center of. We're not talking about some sleazy billionaire who just happened to like private jets and tropical islands. We're talking about what appears to have been a global operation of human and sex trafficking, and if these files are as damning as they seem to be, we're about to witness the biggest exposure of corruption potentially in our lifetimes. Senator Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee, she's one of the few people in Washington that appears to have a spine. She's been leading the charge on this. She's been demanding full declassification, no redactions, no cover-ups. And let me tell you, she's right, because the American people deserve to know who is involved in this whole disgusting Epstein circle. Senator Blackburn says it's time that we uncover this billion-dollar industry.
We have got to put an end to this. And my goal is to make certain that we end it, that we protect these women and children, that we free them from these traffickers, and that we help them restore their lives. Now, what we have learned as we looked at this and how it had exploded into such an enormous business is, and the reason for the interest in the Epstein Files is because he had built a global sex trafficking, human trafficking business. And getting to the bottom of this, and at the time I started this, I was the top Republican on the Human Rights Subcommittee at Judiciary. So to get this information, so we can begin to break these rings apart, finding out who he was in business with, who his associations and affiliations were with. That is why the files, the flight logs, having all the video footage there at his Palm Beach home, and his IRS records to see where payments were coming from to him. This will give us insight into this web of human and sex traffickers that have just spread like wildfire across the globe. And it will help us to begin to get accountability for the victims of this horrendous trade.
I don't think she's going to be deterred, do you? I think Senator Marsha Blackburn is going to stay on this until these files are released. And it looks like that's going to be sooner than later. Now, the deep state, of course, has never wanted this information to come out. Why? Because they're in it up to their eyeballs. For years, people have been asking, where's the client list? Where's the flight logs? Who's on that island? And every single time, the powers that be, the wealthy, influential people who are part of this, sweep it under the rug. They pretend it's just a conspiracy theory. And those of us who question this, who bring this up, we're a bunch of nutcases for even thinking that something was happening here. They do everything they can to bury the truth. Well, maybe it is just a conspiracy theory. But we need to see proof of this, right? We need to see what is on, what's in all these notes. We need to know who was on those airplanes. And yes, who visited this posh island that he owned. And don't even get me started on the whole Epstein so-called suicide. I mean, how convenient was that? Remember the circus? The cameras just happened to stop working at that very moment. The guards just happened to be asleep. And Epstein, the one man who could have named names, just happened to end up dead in his cell, in this maximum security prison cell. And now you have Senator Marsha Blackburn pointing out something else, that Epstein wasn't the only one. Another high-profile trafficker in France also conveniently ended up dead before trial. Funny how that works, isn't it? People with answers, they're conveniently dying. So let me tell you, this isn't just some celebrity gossip. This is about breaking apart a global trafficking network that has infiltrated every level of power, every level of business potentially, every level of the entertainment world. And these people never thought that they would be uncovered. They thought that their dirty little secrets were safe. And as Senator Blackburn confirmed, it's a $150 billion a year in industry. Get that, $150 billion a year industry of taking advantage of other human beings. It is a sick, sick world. Do you really think the people profiting from this are going to let this information come out without a fight? No, they're not. They're going to fight it tooth and nail. And let's not forget, this release isn't just about Epstein. Trump has also ordered the declassification of the JFK, the RFK, and the MLK assassination files. The secrets the deep state's been hiding for decades are about to come to light. And what is Attorney General Pam Bondi saying? She has them on her desk right now. This is huge. And if Trump says it's coming out, I got to believe it's probably going to come out, don't you? Unlike past administrations who promised to declassify some of these files but never delivered, Trump, in this just over a month that he's been back in office, has shown that he keeps his promises. Now, keep in mind, the media is going to panic. They're going to tell you that these releases are a threat to national security. We can't let this be out in the public domain. They're going to try to discredit the documents. They're going to try to downplay and dismiss what we actually see in those documents. Why? Because they hate that this information is coming out after they've spent years covering it up for these people. They knew what Epstein was doing, but they ignored it. They looked the other way. Why? Because he was rich and he was powerful, and because his friends were rich and powerful. Hollywood elites, DC insiders, other billionaires, they all knew and they all looked the other way. But not anymore, because Donald Trump is once again going to do what he said he was going to do. He's going to tell the truth. He's going to force the corrupt elites into the sunlight. And folks, they hate the sunlight. So here's the message that the deep state is about to receive, and to the media, and to the corrupt politicians, and to every powerful figure who thought they could get away with this forever. It looks like time's up. Looks like Attorney General Pam Bondi and President Donald Trump are going to let the American people have the truth, and then we can decide what to do with it.
Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com.
From the text line, this is Faye. Says, Joey, these evil deep staters in D.C. need their paychecks cut. You're right about that, Faye. She says they're screaming bloody murder because Trump had 4 years to know what needed to be done when back in office, and he caught their hands in the cookie jar. I recently heard one of the guys on the radio say, with all the fraud our country has gone through in the last 4 years, our country could have been overtaken, but the only reason it didn't happen was because of our Second Amendment. It's hard to think of our country was so vulnerable. We have to elect people who want to do the right thing, not the ones who want to put money in their foreign bank accounts. This includes folks from South Carolina as well. Just keep up your good news. Well, thank you, Faye. Appreciate your text. All right, I want you to listen very closely at this next little bit of news here, okay? I want you to stop what you're doing, because This story is infuriating. And if I'm going to be mad, I want you to be mad with me. You want to talk about government overreach? You want to talk about bureaucratic cruelty? I don't know any other way to describe this. You want to talk about a complete moral failure? We now have hospitals denying life-saving organ transplants to people because they did not take the COVID-19 vaccine. Does it surprise you? Again, hospitals denying life-saving organ transplants because people didn't take the jab. All right, so here's the story. A little girl, 12 years old, happens to be related to Vice President JD Vance, and good for her, was reportedly denied a heart transplant because she wasn't vaccinated against COVID-19. Now think about that. This little girl fighting for her life, and these medical bureaucrats look her in the eye and say, sorry, kid, no vaccine, no heart. Now, if that doesn't make your blood boil, does that just make you angry? Well, it's not just her. Representative Michael Ruley of Ohio, Representative Aaron Houchin of Indiana, have exposed multiple cases of Americans, children, veterans, being denied life-saving transplants because of these disgusting, outdated, and absolutely unscientific COVID-19 mandates that are still lingering like a bad odor from the Biden administration. If you wanted to get the COVID vaccination, great. That was your personal choice. That was between you and your medical doctor. If you chose not to, that should be okay as well. And it should not affect your medical care now, right? Am I missing something here? Well, these House Republicans, thank goodness, are stepping up. And again, thank goodness this 12-year-old girl related to Vice President JD Vance has brought this to light because she may save other lives. They're calling on President Trump to take immediate executive action to ban this nonsense and ensure that no American, and especially children, ever get denied medical care because of their personal choice to reject a medical procedure. Period. Ruley and Houchin have already introduced a bill to cut federal funding to any hospital that refuses to treat unvaccinated patients. And let me tell you, they're absolutely right. You don't get to take taxpayer money and then turn around and deny care to the very people funding your institution. Now, here's what you need to know. This is a direct result of the COVID tyranny we lived under for years. It's kind of like a fog, isn't it? To think of what our country went through during that period of time. I sometimes think back on it, and I think it was just a bad horror movie. Hospitals, doctors, universities, the military were brainwashed into thinking that compliance with government dictates mattered more than human lives. They became agents of the state rather than healers, educators, and defenders of our Constitution. And who started this mess? Well, we know, Joe Biden and his merry band of left-wing authoritarians. These people shoved mandates down our throats, forced Americans to choose between their jobs and their bodily autonomy, fired military service members for not taking the jab. And now, even though Trump has reversed these mandates, the poison is still lingering in the system. There's still idiots out there who think that they're living back in the COVID world. But I think they picked a fight that they're going to lose here. These House Republicans are saying enough, and they're absolutely right to push the president to take executive action and do it now. Because, let's be clear, every day that goes by, more Americans could die because of this policy. Every day, a child, a veteran, a mom, a dad could potentially be told, sorry, no transplant for you because you didn't take our government mandated shot. That's just evil. That's brutal. And here's the best part. Trump's already shown that he's willing to fight this insanity. He's already signed orders ending COVID-19 vaccine mandates in schools. He's already reinstated military service members who were wrongly discharged for refusing the jab. This is the next step, and I hope that happens quickly, because I just hate to think about some little 12-year-old girl out there who needs a heart to live and being told no by some medical bureaucrat because she didn't get vaccinated for COVID. Let's take a moment and talk about the bigger picture here, though, because this isn't just about COVID. The mother of this 12-year-old girl is now pleading for Trump to also ban transplant denials based on flu vaccine. Let that sink in. The flu vaccine. How long before hospitals start requiring every vaccine under the sun just to get basic medical care? How long before you need a government-approved medical history just to be considered eligible for some type of treatment? This is the slippery slope that we've been warned about for years now. First, it was COVID. Now, potentially the flu. What's next? A social credit system tied to your medical records? Sorry, sir, you can't get a transplant because you didn't get your 37th booster shot. Again, this is potentially medical tyranny. This is what happens when we allow unelected bureaucrats to dictate who lives and who dies. So, this should be our message to our president. Sign the order, please. Ban this disgraceful practice once and for all. Make it crystal clear that in our America, hospitals will never be allowed to play God with people's lives just because they refuse to comply with a government mandate. And that's what Dr. Fauci's jabs were, a government mandate. We now have learned so much about what we didn't know then and just what a crook Anthony Fauci was. What a disgraceful career bureaucrat. That man made millions and millions of dollars because of his government position, and he didn't care anything about us. I mean, he admitted that he lied to us, not once, but multiple times. And to these House Republicans for this, keep the pressure on. Thank you. Thank you for doing what your people in your district elected you to do. Don't let up. This is about more than just one child. This is about more than the 12-year-old who reportedly is related to Vice President JD Vance. This is about those Americans who's not related to the Vice President. This is about every American who deserves the right for medical care about being subjected to ideological bureaucratic nonsense. And to all the so-called health professionals enforcing this sanity, we should have a message for them too. History is not going to be kind to people like you, to the Anthony Fauci's of the world. The American people will not forget that you chose ideology over humanity, that you let good people die because they wouldn't bow to your mandates. But it stops right now. Joining us on our guest line, Matt Wills, Vice President of Government Affairs for the Greenville Chamber, for our weekly legislative update. Good morning, and boy, you guys have had another busy week.
We have had a busy week. Thanks for having me, Joey.
It's always a pleasure, Matt. Let's talk about a topic that's been top of mind for weeks now, and that is tort reform. It seems like this is something, again, that we have to touch on because it's a moving target. Give us an update on where we stand.
So, kind of where we stand is kind of where we ended last week. We got reported out of the Judiciary Committee to the full Senate floor, anticipating debate beginning next week on the Senate floor. Anticipate a long process with many, many amendments. The subcommittee and the committee did not choose to amend the bill in its current form in the committee process. They were going to take that to the floor and have that debate on the floor. Which is an interesting, kind of revelation, if you will, within this bill, just simply from the fact that the entire 46 are going to have the opportunity to be heard on this, not just, committee folks and the subcommittee folks, making amendments and pushing that bill before. Sure. All 46 senators are going to have the opportunity to be heard on this. Not that they wouldn't previous, but this is an interesting play, if you will. To see what changes we're going to see within this tort bill. Is it perfect right now? It's not. There are some things that obviously need to be addressed, and I think the Senate sponsors recognize that. But I also, applaud Senator Turner specifically for putting it out there. Look, I'm not going to just vote for a window dressing bill. If this gets taken down to something that doesn't help businesses in the upstate and across the state, then I'm not going to vote for it. And I think that's what we're hearing across the board of folks that are supportive of this joint and several liability protections returning back to businesses.
Sure. Well, if that scenario were to unfold, let's say we have people who are in favor of tort reform to make our business environment much better for small businesses, particularly, but everybody. I mean, isn't that a loss if some of these members of the Senate just decide, okay, I'm not going to vote for it, and nothing happens?
Well, so I think it's kind of a double-edged sword there, right? Doing something is better than doing nothing, but not doing enough isn't good enough.
Yeah.
And I think that what we continue to hear from businesses that are investors in the chamber, ones that are really advocating for lawsuit reform. Our litigative environment in this state is such that it's just not conducive to long-term success for small businesses. And if they, look, no one is arguing that somebody that is at fault for something shouldn't be made responsible for that. The entire argument centers around the fairness in the legal system and fairness in our civil justice system. Those scales of balance are out of balance at the moment, and I think that if we don't get the lawsuit reform, the tort reform that we need, those scales are going to continue to be out of balance, and doing something just isn't good enough in that aspect.
Yeah. This is obviously a very important piece of legislation. The Post and Courier reported this week that there is an ad blitz that has been launched, reportedly a 6-figure campaign funded by the South Carolina Senate Republican Caucus. Is it normal for a caucus to fund an ad campaign lobbying their own members?
Well, it's one of those things. I think this has become more of a political campaign or political outreach, kind of a hearts and minds campaign, if you will. At this point, look, results are what the results were in November. We saw a huge shift in the environment in the Senate. 13 new members overall. Lots of new Republicans in there. I think there's a couple of new Democrats that came in. But the numbers shifted from where they were before.
Yeah.
There were some members in the previous iterations of the Senate that were very, very much against any type of tort reform and would just object wholly on the entire subject. Those members are no longer there, so the environment has changed. And I think around that, the narrative has changed. That's why you see the trial bar, the trial lawyers working as hard as they're working to protect themselves. And a bill without any type of tort reform, lawsuit reform, really only benefits one party in this state, and that's the trial bar.
Yeah. Well, something that we obviously will continue to watch because it affects, I think it's safe to say it affects every South Carolinian, regardless of whether.
It absolutely does.
Yeah.
It absolutely does.
Yeah, in some form or fashion. Move on quickly to one other topic. There was some movement on a teacher's bill that would allow people who are experienced to get into the classroom faster to help out with the teacher shortage. Talk with us about the non-certified teacher bill.
Certainly. Non-certified teacher bill S79 is a bill that was filed and has gotten through the committee process that allows folks that have relevant degrees and in fields that are in need and in school districts that are rated in certain places, allows those folks who are non-certified to go in and teach in those schools as long as they're on a path towards receiving certification. This is a kind of a trial period, if you will, over about 5 years where, the state will look at, kind of what has come from it, how many teachers are being gained from this, it's a step forward in what we see in a teacher shortage in the state that just is unacceptable. And this is I would say a long-term fix. It's a short-term fix to allow folks to come in a non-certified way, as long as they're working towards that certification on the teacher side. So it's a step in the right direction. Is it a panacea? It's not, but it is certainly a step in the right direction. I applaud the Senate. This bill came out of Senator Turner's subcommittee. It's a bill that's passed in the House and the Senate in some way, shape, or form over the last 2 or 3 years. And, it's time that we kind of, buckle down and get it passed of the overall chamber and get it to the governor to sign.
Matt Wills, Vice President of Government Affairs with the Greenville Chamber, will appreciate your checking in with us, and we'll do it again next week.
Yes, sir. Looking forward to it.
That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.